Right, Robert Whittaker is taking on Paulo Costa at UFC 298. I think this is the third time this fight has been booked. But Paulo has been on social media to reassure the fans that he's still fighting and everything's fine. You know, like he did last time with his fight against Kamsat, just before he pulled out. Whittaker isn't bothered though, as he's been promised to fight on that spot of that card even if Costa pulls out. But I think third time's a charm, and we're going to actually get to see him fight this time. Now, I don't think looking at both of their last performances is very helpful for this matchup. Not to diminish Dricus du Plessis' win, but it doesn't seem like we saw the best, hungriest Whittaker in that fight. Maybe we did, and Dricus is just that good. But even if that is the case, and we haven't seen the ceiling for Dricus' skills yet, well, Costa isn't as good as that anyway. So it doesn't matter to this matchup. And then when we look at Costa's last fight, Luke Rockhold at UFC 278, all the way back in August 2022. Not only was it a very long time ago, but it was at Salt Lake City. And I don't know if you remember that one, but it was the one where all the fighters on the card were gassing out. I mean, they were more fatigued than John Jones's confession priest. It was the card with the famous Leon head kick. But if you remember that fight, Leon looked great in the first round and then gassed out for the rest of the fight until it was time for that kick. And Rockhold and Costa was something else. They were sweating more than the child welfare officer that was responsible for little baby Strickland. It was an entertaining fight though, and in fairness, Costa did win, but it doesn't feel like that performance factors much into this fight. We all know, on paper, the size and power advantage probably lies with Paulo, whereas Bobby Knuckles has the better movement and the more well-rounded skill set. Rob is slicker, and I'm assuming he's most people's favourite going into the fight. Yes, he has more ways to win, and you could say he's a safer bet, but I don't think it's as simple as that. I think who wins this fight all comes down, more so than normal, to whoever shows up on each side that night. There is the Paulo Costa that was on that absolute tear-up on the way to his title shot. Aggressive and game, he was a savage. The Izzy fight completely messed him up. He was undefeated before that, and he didn't know how to deal with the loss. It fucked him up in the head, and he ain't been the same since. Yeah, on social media he's turned into an absolute menace. But since then, in the sport, he seemed uninterested and like the spark has gone. Has he got back in touch with that animal in his time away from the cage? Because that's going to be a big factor in how competitive this fight is. And Whittaker, he said that he didn't show up against du Plessis. But that's in stark contrast to what he was saying just before that fight. Is he at the edge of the cliff, about to fall off? Or was that the wake-up call that he needed, that will now reignite that desire within him? And that is probably the biggest factor in this fight. If the very best Costa and the very best Whittaker show up, firstly, we're going to have a firefight on our hands. But with the best from both fighters, I think Whittaker wins. But we just have to see who turns up from each side. But with Kamsat and Cannonier and Izzy and Strickland all floating around, it's unlikely that the winner of this fight will secure a title shot. So for the victor, there's still some work to do. But when you think about the different outcomes for this fight and the matchups that they create, I've got to say, the middleweight is looking ridiculous right now. Probably currently the spiciest division. Anyway, if you like this video, give us a sub, check out this playlist of recent bangers, and I'll see you next time.